I'm from Singapore.
From Vietnam.
AWS User Group Thailand.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I run the user group in Singapore as a community hero.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I love AWS community.
Go AWS.
I'm so proud that all the group members are very proactive to support each other.
I'm really passionate about making artificial intelligence and machine learning more accessible.
I'm also one of the AWS machine learning heroes around the world.
It's a global, positive and diverse community.
ผมเป็น Amazon Web Service Community Hero ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับ
The love of the technology and the friendship in the community.
Go AWS.
You've earned an AWS certification. Congratulations! Now what? Show your employer, colleagues, and your customers that you've met the bar set by AWS experts. Add your digital badge to your professional profiles and email signature to highlight your skills. Share it on your social feeds to celebrate with your network. And offer verification via email or on your resume. Cloud skills are in demand, and you have them. Share your AWS certified achievement today.
Hi, I'm Emma from the AWS Account and Billing Support team in Sydney. Sometimes customers ask me what is included in the AWS Pre-Tier and how they can use the Pre-Tier. Today, I'm going to talk about what you can use in the AWS Pre-Tier. Let's get started. As you can see, I'm on the AWS Pre-Tier website. The Pre-Tier is automatically activated for each new AWS account and it lasts for 1 year. While the Pre-Tier is active, you can try out many AWS services for free, which gives you the flexibility to experiment and see if AWS is right for you. Let's go through a few services covered in the AWS Pre-Tier. 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, T2 micro instance uses. 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Microsoft Windows Server T2 micro instance uses. 5 GB of the standard storage S3. 750 hours of Amazon RDS Single AG Micro DB instance running MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle BYOL, or SQL Server Express Edition. Please note that not all AWS services are covered under the Pre-Tier. Check the Pre-Tier offering to make sure the services you intend to use are covered. Here are some of the frequent questions that we receive from AWS customers. When does the AWS pre-usage tier expire? The AWS pre-usage tier expires 12 months from the date you sign up. When your free usage expired, or if your application use exceeds the pre-usage tier, you simply pay the standard pay-as-you-go service rate. If I don't use all my free usage per month, will it roll over to the next month? No, the AWS pre-usage tier is applied to your monthly usage, will expire on the first day of the new month, and does not roll over to the next month. How do I know how much I've used and if I've gone over the pre-usage tier? To see your current and past usage activity by service and region, please log into your Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. Then select Bills in the Billing console. To see your current and past usage activity by service and region, please log into your Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. You can type Billing. It will take you to the Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. Then select Bills in the Billing console. To see previous invoice, select the drop-down menu next to the date. Thanks for watching and happy cloud computing from all of us here at AWS.
I'm from Singapore.
From Vietnam.
AWS User Group Thailand.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I run the user group in Singapore as a community hero.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I love AWS community.
Go AWS.
I'm so proud that all the group members are very proactive to support each other.
I'm really passionate about making artificial intelligence and machine learning more accessible.
I am also one of the AWS machine learning heroes around the world.
It's a global, positive and diverse community.
ผมเป็น Amazon Web Service Community Hero ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับ
The love of the technology and the friendship in the community.
Go AWS.
You've earned an AWS certification. Congratulations! Now what? Show your employer, colleagues, and your customers that you've met the bar set by AWS experts. Add your digital badge to your professional profiles and email signature to highlight your skills. Share it on your social feeds to celebrate with your network. And offer verification via email or on your resume. Cloud skills are in demand, and you have them. Share your AWS certified achievement today.
Hi, I'm Emma from the AWS Account and Billing Support team in Sydney. Sometimes customers ask me what is included in the AWS Pre-Tier and how they can use the Pre-Tier. Today, I'm going to talk about what you can use in the AWS Pre-Tier. Let's get started. As you can see, I'm on the AWS Pre-Tier website. The Pre-Tier is automatically activated for each new AWS account and it lasts for 1 year. While the Pre-Tier is active, you can try out many AWS services for free, which gives you the flexibility to experiment and see if AWS is right for you. Let's go through a few services covered in the AWS Pre-Tier. 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, T2 micro instance uses. 750 out of Amazon EC2 Microsoft Windows Server T2 Micro instance uses. 5 GB of the standard storage S3. 750 hours of Amazon RDS Single AG Micro DB instance running MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle BYOL, or SQL Server Express Edition. Please note that not all AWS services are covered under the Pre-Tier. Check the Pre-Tier offering to make sure the services you intend to use are covered. Here are some of the frequent questions that we receive from AWS customers. When does the AWS pre-usage tier expire? The AWS pre-usage tier expires 12 months from the date you sign up. When your free usage expired, or if your application use exceeds the pre-usage tier, you simply pay the standard pay-as-you-go service rate. If I don't use all my free usage per month, will it roll over to the next month? No, the AWS pre-usage tier is applied to your monthly usage, will expire on the first day of the new month, and does not roll over to the next month. How do I know how much I've used and if I've gone over the pre-usage tier? To see your current and past usage activity by service and region, please log into your Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. Then select Bills in the Billing console. To see your current and past usage activity by service and region, please log into your Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. You can type Billing. It will take you to the Billing and Cost Management dashboard page. Then select Bills in the Billing console. To see previous invoice, select the drop-down menu next to the date. Thanks for watching and happy cloud computing from all of us here at AWS.
I'm from Singapore.
From Vietnam.
AWS User Group Thailand.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I run the user group in Singapore as a community hero.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I love AWS community.
Go AWS.
I'm so proud that all the group members are very proactive to support each other.
I'm really passionate about making artificial intelligence and machine learning more accessible.
I am also one of the AWS machine learning heroes around the world.
It's a global, positive and diverse community.
ผมเป็น Amazon Web Service Community Hero ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับ
The love of the technology and the friendship in the community.
Go AWS.
You've earned an AWS certification. Congratulations! Now what? Show your employer, colleagues, and your customers that you've met the bar set by AWS experts. Add your digital badge to your professional profiles and email signature to highlight your skills. Share it on your social feeds to celebrate with your network. And offer verification via email or on your resume. Cloud skills are in demand, and you have them. Share your AWS certified achievement today.
Hi, I'm Emma from the AWS Account and Billing Support team in Sydney. Sometimes customers ask me what is included in the AWS Pre-Tier and how they can use the Pre-Tier. Today, I'm going to talk about what you can use in the AWS Pre-Tier. Let's get started. As you can see, I'm on the AWS Pre-Tier website. The Pre-Tier is automatically activated for each new AWS account, and it lasts for 1 year. While the Pre-Tier is active, you can try out many AWS services for free, which gives you the flexibility to experiment and see if AWS is right for you. Let's go through a few services covered in the AWS Pre-Tier. 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, T2 micro instance uses. 750 hours of Amazon EC2 Microsoft Windows Server, T2 micro instance uses. 5 GB of the standard storage S3. 750 hours of Amazon RDS Single AG MicroDB instance running MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle BYOL, or SQL Server Express Edition. Please note that not all AWS services are covered under the Pre-Tier. Check the Pre-Tier offering to make sure the services you intend to use are covered. Here are some of the frequent questions that we receive from AWS customers. When does the AWS Pre-Usage tier expire? The AWS Pre-Usage tier expires 12 months from the date you sign up. When your free usage expired, or if your application use exceeds the pre-usage tier, you simply pay the standard pay-as-you-go service rate.
Great day, everyone. I'm Andresito Divisbanda Community Lead for PWA Pilipinas, and you're watching our first PWA Pilipinas Live Cloud Talks. So before we begin, I'll be first introducing our org, PWA Pilipinas. So, what's PWA Pilipinas? Well, kami po ang community for progressive web app makers, designers, and users here in the Philippines. And if you wanted to learn more about us at saka sa mga upcoming events pa namin, visit nyo lang fb.com/PWA Pilipinas. And nasa Twitter din kami, PWA Pilipinas. And may app din kami, app.pwapilipinas.org. Yun. So, pinasimple na namin yung mga events namin. If naka-attend na kayo before, mas madali siyang maintindihan ngayon dahil hinati na namin siya into 3. So first is meron kaming meetups. So we usually have itong mga meetups na to para makapag-network kayo sa mga fellow PWA designers, makers, and users here sa country. Meron din tayong live kagaya nito na ginaganap natin every month. And meron din tayong workshops nitong March, meron tayong workshop about information architecture and progressive web apps. Ayun, so for sure marami pa tayong gaganaping mga workshops, mga susunod pang mga buwan. So ayun nga itong March nag-celebrate tayo ng World IA Day. So kasama natin yung mga celebrate yung Cebu. So meron din tayong PWA Pilipinas workshop no March 5 about information architecture. So nagkaroon tayo ng meetup. Tapos last March 16, kung nanood din kayo doon, meron tayong partner event with Staff League. And itong event natin tonight, yung Cloud Talks. And kung gusto yung matuto about progressive web apps, meron tayong introduction to progressive web apps ng March 26 at 8 p.m. Yun. So, ganun din, register na kayo kagaya sa ginawa niyong pag-register dito para makanood kayo ng intro to PWA. Yun. So, para sa mga latest events, visit nyo lang yung app.pwapilipinas.org or isearch nyo yung PWA Pilipinas sa Play Store or Microsoft Store. Yan. So ngayon, meron na tayong 1,000 plus members sa ating PWA Pilipinas app. So maraming salamat. So kung gusto nyo pang umatay ng marami pang events, diba, in partnership yan with AWS, with Microsoft, with other partners, visit nyo lang yan. And thank you sa AWS Siklab Pilipinas at Edukasyon.ph para sa support, as always. Ayun, sa mga nagtatanong, no, daming tanong palagi. A few days na, no, kung paano ba magkakaroon ng e-certificate of attendance para sa event na to. So, kung nag-register na kayo using yung app.pwapilipinas.org, yun na, one step away na kayo. Ang next na lang na gagawin nyo ay, yun, so visit nyo yung app.pwapilipinas.org, hanapin yung ating event for tonight, tapos i-click nyo lang yung attend event. Yan. So may button kayo makita dyan na attend event. Tapos, ayan, i-open na natin yung form. Sige, open na namin yung form. Ayan. Okay, so pwede nyo i-fill up yung form. Though mas maganda kung mamaya na, no, syempre feedback form yan. Pero pwede nyo ilagay, no. So, ang ilalagay nyo dyan yung first name tsaka last name nyo para malagay namin siya sa certificate. Dahil syempre, nag-register kayo, hindi pa namin kayo tinanong ng inyong mga details. So, dito namin tatanungin yung details about you. So, make sure na, to click yung attend event, then fill up yung Google form. So, if hindi nyo pa makita yung attend event na button, click nyo lang yung register and i-activate namin yan after the event. Yun. So, okay ba? Okay. So, hanggang 11:59 lang po pwede mag-fill up ng form. So, after the event, i-open na namin yun para sa mga kaka-register lang. So, fill up nila din yun agad afterwards. Tapos, isend po namin yung mga e-certificates bukas or sa Monday. Yan. So, kung hindi nyo na-receive after ng Monday, check nyo yung spam or message kayo sa amin sa hi@pwapilipinas.org or i-message nyo kami sa Facebook. Yun. So, huwag natin patagalin pa. Let's continue with our event. So, for our tonight's session, I'll be introducing our speaker. So, our speaker is Karina Alvarado. She is a senior DevOps engineer specializing in API management and formerly on Identity Access Management or IAM. So before DevOps, she was a full-stack software developer utilizing Microsoft technologies. She's also a 4X AWS certified engineer, wow, and a core member and volunteer of AWS User Group Builders Plus, which is an affiliate of AWS Users Group Philippines. And she is also an author of Girl Who Codes comic strips. Yan. So, without further ado, let's welcome here at the PWA Pilipinas live stage, Kay. Hi, Kay.
Hi, Andre. Thank you for that introduction.
Okay, so I believe you can start na.
Yep. I'll start sharing my screen. Yep. Okay, all good. So again, good evening, everyone. So first, thank you to Thea for introducing me to PWA Pilipinas, the team Andre, John, and Michael, and of course to the Siklab Pilipinas team who are co-hosting this event. I really appreciate these groups that set up these free webinars for everyone to get access to valuable information about the IT industry. Yep. As mentioned, I'm a volunteer for the AWS UG Builders Plus, who also organizes cloud-related events and webinars. So if you're also interested to volunteer, also visit us in our FB group. So I hope you learned something from me today. Our topic today is fairly simple, hosting static websites on a cloud storage. And my expertise is on Amazon Web Services, so I'll focus mainly on the AWS Cloud on this topic, and we'll take a look at S3, Cloud Storage Service. So, kaya S3 kasi SSS. So, tatlong S, Simple Storage Service. It's one of the first services offered by AWS, and it's actually the first service. It was launched way back in 2006. So, right now, there are more than 200 plus services offered by AWS. So, if you're a student or an IT professional who has limited knowledge of the cloud, S3 is where you really should start learning. So right now, there's a lot of setup you can do to host a static website. And there's easier ways with the introduction of newer cloud services. So merong Lightsail, Amplify, Elastic Beanstalk, or even DIY yung EC2 or ECS. But this session only focuses on the cloud storage. So with that, let's proceed. So an overview of what topics we'll touch on. So we'll define what a static website is, what are your hosting options, what's the cloud. Then we'll do a demo of hosting a static website in the cloud. And we'll do it step by step. And in the process, I'll walk you through the different AWS services that we'll need. So you can see that in the logo. We have Route 53, CloudFront S3, ACM, and code pipeline. So we'll touch all these services. And majority of what I'll show is based on multiple references or tutorials, but majorly a documentation is already provided by AWS on how to set it up. So you can also see on the link here, I've pasted that if you want to follow it step by step based on the Amazon user guide. And if you try to look for how to host static websites in the cloud, most references will show you exactly the same process that I'll demo today. But on top of that process, I'll also show you the usage of another AWS services, yung code pipeline, which basically handles the CI/CD part of deploying in AWS. So yun yung middle logo here. And this is especially important if you're in DevOps and want to create a continuous integration and delivery of your web app. Yun. So as defined, static websites are nothing but a collection of lightweight static files. So this can be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, image files. And these are served by a host to the web browser or the client accessing the site, exactly as they are stored. So regardless if user 1 tries to access the home page of the site, so for example, index.html, and user 2 tries to access the same, parehong-pareho yung makukuha nilang content. So it doesn't change as opposed to sa dynamic website, which can differ from user to user. Just in case you're also not yet aware, AWS recently launched this game called Cloud Quest. So it's available via explore.skillbuilder.aws, and it's actually an RPG game you can play while you're learning AWS. So would just like to share that too. Yun. So basic design of a static website is, and you have a client browser. It can be either from a computer or mobile, accessing a domain. So for example, yung example.com. And behind this domain, it points to a web server that has the static files being requested by the client. So it's served via HTTP, HTTPS. And in terms of hosting, there's two approaches in hosting. You can either host the site with the provider, or you can host it on-premise or on your own data center. The more common approach is to host the website with the provider because it's easier to do. So everything you need, host server, OS maintenance, or software updates of the host server is already provided for you. All you need is to upload your website files, you set up a domain, and you're done. And it's generally cheaper also to host a static website with the provider because hosting providers use bulk offering and shared server space, keeping cost minimal for the individual customer. So lahat ng customer na usually na-allocate nila in a single server or multiple servers that they can rent out. So that keeps the cost minimal for the customer. So kung ikaw naman sarili mo nag-set up, you end up paying more for server space or compute capacity, which you don't really need. So aside from that, you also need yung dedicated staff to maintain yung server mo. So highly recommended talaga na you use a provider when hosting your website. And in terms of reliability, in technical terms, reliability is the measure or the probability of that the tech will deliver the service that it's designed for. So available ba yan 24/7, or does it perform the way it is intended, or nakakakuha ba yung user ng mga 504 or yung server errors? So kung isa lang yung server mo na nasa on-prem na sinetup, what happens if something goes wrong with that server? Your website is also down. So yun yung downside. So ultimately, static website in itself is fairly straightforward. And the use case is parang simple lang for promotion, or kunyari, very rare updates to the pages, kunyari company profile or personal website. So you might opt to just use a provider that you can immediately terminate once you no longer need the site. But maybe the option to go on-prem or set it up yourself is if you want absolute control of your website or kunyari merong mga security compliance things na kailangan alam mo kung asan nakastore yung data mo. So that's the only time you go for the on-prem solution when hosting. Ayun. So let's go deeper to hosting with the provider. Ayun, may multiple options ulit, but I'll focus on the cloud option or hosting the website in the cloud. So let's define what the cloud is. So cloud is basically a data center then. It runs services that are made available to the internet, which you can use on an on-demand basis. So you don't see a data center in itself, but there's a data center somewhere. So merong cloud provider such as Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, where you can rent these services, for example, yung cloud storage for a certain time. Tapos you can just terminate them when you no longer need it. And you only pay for the time you used it for. Yun. So let's now go to the architecture of what we'll be setting up. So again, you can see here the AWS services that we'll use. We have Route 53, ACM, CloudFront, and of course yung S3 or yung cloud storage. So yung Route 53, it's the DNS service of AWS, and it's extremely reliable and cost-effective way to route end users to internet apps. It can translate names such as yung www.example.com to the numeric IP, such as 192.0.2.1 that computers use to talk to each other. And according to the documentation by AWS, so they made it commercially reasonable to make Amazon Route 53 100% available. So no downtime talaga yung promise ng AWS. And in the event that Amazon Route 53 does not meet that commitment, you will be eligible to receive a service credit as described on that agreement. Yeah. So next, yung CloudFront na service. This is the CDN naman, yung Content Delivery Network service of AWS. It provides caching capabilities so that it can improve performance of loading your website. And it also stores frequently accessed files in the edge location. So kung familiar kayo dun sa location, how the AWS infrastructure works, meron niyang mga regions and then merong edge location where content is served on a faster way kapag andun sa edge location yung cache. So yun yung purpose ng CloudFront. So that hindi kailangan mag-retrieve ng files palagi dun sa S3, which can be anywhere within the region. Ayan. So ACM naman, yun, this one. This is the Ews Certificate Manager. It's a service that lets you easily provision, manage, and deploy public and private SSL or TLS certificates for use with AWS services and your internal connected resources. And of course, we also have S3. So it's an object storage service. It's AWS managed, meaning you don't own the server maintenance. So hindi mo handle yung mga OS updates or yung pag-maintain ng server itself. Ang nakikita mo lang storage siya. So parang Google Drive. You just upload the objects and they're already available. So it provides high availability, scalability, security, and performance. And these are terms you'll commonly hear when dealing with cloud services because it's the major benefit of the cloud. And you as the app owner focuses on developing your applications instead of also managing yung platform. Yun. So, ayun. For this demo, we'll also use React. So it's a popular framework for making dynamic web apps, but we will execute the build process to generate static files. Para static files lang yung kailangan natin sa S3 na yun yung i-deploy. So the main idea is instead of rendering it on the client side, it will render on the local machine during the build process to minimize the load time. Then we'll upload the static files, the HTML, and serve it as a regular web page. So again, high-level steps will create a React app, deploy that static website in AWS, and then also create a deployment pipeline. So Just an FYI for the purpose of not waiting, because some steps would require a few minutes of waiting. So I just took some screenshots while implementing this, and I'll walk you through the end-to-end process. So with that, let's start. So let's go back yung sa architecture. So the first part that we'll do is we'll actually create the React app. So also prerequisites of this demo, it's assumed that you already have Node installed. Then you also have Git. So yung Git yung repository source control. I'll also share the GitHub repo of the boilerplate React app. So we're not going to build the static website on our own. We'll use the React.js boilerplate code and just go through the process of deploying that. And another prerequisite is the AWS CLI. So we'll use this when uploading the static website to S3, the objects to S3. So with that, let's proceed to create the React app and run it locally. So yan. So first step, of course, so sa workspace mo, you just create a directory. You can name it anything you want. So the command is make directory demo app, for example. Then you navigate to the demo app folder, change directory to demo app, and then run the create the boilerplate React app. So that the command is npx create React app. So for example, let's name that girl who codes. So it will start creating a new React app in that path that you specify. And this will take a while to download all the needed files on your local machine. Then once that's done, you'll see something like this completed message. So that you'll know that it's already completed or downloaded on your local machine. Yan. So when you change directory to that app that was created, cd to the folder, so girl who codes, then you can run npm start to test that locally or run that in your local server. So it will start to load on a browser similar to this one. So may makikita kang mga maraming mga log messages here. You can just ignore that. And then it will load under the local host and then specify a port based on the configuration on the React app. I believe yung default is set to 3000, kaya 3000 yung port na andito. So this is the sample app that will upload to S3. Yan. So zoom in ko lang, ganito yung itsura ng web app. Yan. So again, as mentioned, we have to create the static files. So we run the npm run build. So this will start to create npm run build creates a build directory with a production build of your app. So you can set up your HTTP server so that a visitor to your site is served index HTML. So yun yung home page, and request to static paths like static JS main. So ayun. So ito, again, this will take some time to complete, but once that's done, you should see a build folder created in your directory which will contain the static files. So something like this. So ito yung app mo. Then it will create that build folder. If you navigate there, you'll see the files created. Ayan, marami siya. And we'll also have some static files created here. So ito yung mga i-upload natin sa S3 later. Yun. So going back dun sa architecture build up, we now have the React app that we verified that it runs correctly in your local machine. So now let's upload the static files to S3. Yan. So next part of the process, so we need to set up also the DNS or yung domain and upload our files to S3. So nag-skip ako ng konti. I'll explain about the Route 53 because the name is relevant here. So we'll first go through the process of registering your domain in AWS, but won't connect it to a resource just yet. So that part will take a look a little later. Ayan. So first step, set up the domain, yung girl who codes .click, yung ito. So you have to go to the AWS Management Console and go to the Route 53 service. So again, Route 53 is the DNS service of AWS. So you'll see this dashboard, and you'll find a button here called Register Domain. So click on that. Then you'll go through a wizard similar to something like below. So dito ilalagay mo yung domain name mo first. So for example, I think yung nilagay ko dito is girlcodes.click. So makikita mo iba-iba yung price depende dun sa extension ng domain mo. So .com, of course, yun yung what most sites use and looks legitimate as well. So if it's for a company or institution, you should always go for a .com. Pero usually yung .com is more expensive than the other extension for domain. Yan. So going through the steps, you'll also have to input your contact details for your domain. And if you also want some privacy protection, there's also an option here. You just have to pay for a minimal fee to have that, so that yung contact mo is hindi lalabas dun sa whois.com na registry. So you can also have that option here. Yan. So when you register a domain with Amazon Route 53, or you transfer your domain registration to Route 53, AWS configures the domain to renew automatically. So the automatic renewal period is 1 year, although the registries for some top-level domains have longer renewal periods. And the last part of the wizard, you just have to verify your purchase and then complete your order. And then it will show something like order submitted successfully. Then you can go ahead and close that. Yan. Once that's done, it will start to show up under the domains. You'll see pending requests here. You'll see your domain here, and it will show domain registration in progress. Then once completed, it will now move to your registered domains and show some details here. Yan. So nalipat lang siya dun sa registered domain. You'll also get an email confirmation from AWS that you're signing up for this domain. So you just have to, this is just one type of verification for you. There's also an email verification part. So aside from that, you'll get this email to verify your email address for that domain. So girlwhocodes.click. And then it will give you a link to verify your email address. You just have to click that. And you have to click that within the validation period. And so once you click that, you'll be routed to this web page saying that thank you for validating the email address. No further action is required. So registration has been completed. So iyon na yung domain. Yan. And you'll also get this confirmation email that your email was verified for Amazon Route 53 domain registration. Yun. So now, going back, we have our React app, and we also have yung domain. So meron na rin tayong Route 53 domain na girlwhocodes.click. Ayan. Once you see this, you'll also have a hosted zone set up. So for each public hosted zone that you create, Amazon Route 53 automatically creates a name server record and a start of authority or yung SOA record. So laging nakakabit yun sa mga DNS, sa mga domain. And you rarely need to change that. So it's already provided for you. I won't go into much detail about those records anymore. So you can research about DNS if you want to go deeper into the DNS, yung DNS topic. Ayan. So of course, hindi pa natin pinoint to anything yung domain. So when you load that in your browser, it will show something like this. This site can't be reached because it's not pointed to anything yet. So that's what we have currently. And continuing on the architecture build-up, now that we have our React app and our domain, we can now proceed to create our S3 bucket. So we'll also upload the files to S3. And we're going to use AWS CLI. So so first let's create yung S3 bucket. We'll create 2 buckets. So one is yung www.girlwhocodes .click, and also yung walang www, yung non-www domain, which is girlcodes.click. So we just want to upload our files in one bucket. So for example, dun sa www girlcodes.click, because we want users to access one without the www to load the same file. So magsiset up lang tayo ng redirect from the non-www to the www1. So nasa isang bucket lang yung files natin. Ayan. So going through S3, so may makikita ka ditong sa left side pane na buckets. Then you can just go ahead and create the bucket to start the process. Then you specify the bucket name. So here I started with the non-www na bucket. Then I set it up on the Asia Pacific AP Southeast 1 region. Ayan. So, ganun lang kasimple, create the bucket, and then it will show successfully created bucket, and it will already show the bucket created here. Yeah. Then do the same for the other bucket, so yung www counterpart, and now you'll have two entries, one for non-www and the other na meron. Ayan. So now we'll start uploading our files. But first, since we're going to use AWS CLI, we also need an IAM user. So IAM is another AWS service for management of users. So we're using AWS CLI to interact with our S3 bucket via command line. So there's also an option to upload the files directly from the AWS Management Console, where it's just in drag and drop lang. But for the purpose of learning more, para mas ma-explore natin si AWS, I'll go through the process of doing it via the command line. So first, we'll need an IAM user to run the AWS CLI commands. So again, in Management Console, you just search for IAM to go to the service. Then we can go and create the IAM user. So go to IAM. Ayan. So may makikita ka dito, user, roles, policies. Ayun. We're going to create user. So click on user and then click on add user. Yan. Then it will again be a wizard process. So just specify the username. For this use, I typed in AWS CLI as the name of the user. Then select programmatic access if you're going to use this for the CLI. So that's why I had this check. We're going to use an access key and access key secret to as password. So instead of password, mag-generate si AWS ng access keys for us. Yan. So next part of the wizard, we have to set the permissions of this user. So usually yung policies naman is isa-select mo na lang siya. You just have to find it. You can filter the policies. For our use case, we'll select the administrator access. So pwede mo siyang i-drill down pa, pero I just selected the highest option. So lahat ng access ni admin is given to this user. Then proceed to next. Yan. So we can, etong tagging, another thing na common sa mga AWS services, we can just skip that. But usually it's for identifying a specific set of resources. So pwede mo siyang i-group based on tags. So yun yung isang use case ni tags sa cloud. Ayan. So last part, it will show you success and the user has been created. So it will show you the user AWS CLI and provide you the access key ID and the secret access key. And this will just be shown to you for one time only. So you have to save it in a secure path. So pwede mo siyang i-download and then store it somewhere that you know. Yan. So now, let's go back to your local machine. If you want to start using that AWS CLI user, you just have to configure your access one time. So you run the AWS configure command. So again, yung AWS is, you're saying that you're using the CLI. So AWS configure, then it will start to ask you for AWS Access Key ID. So ito yung pinrovide dun sa screen kanina. You just have to type that as well as the secret access key, and then type your default region name. So since it's already set to my default region name, I didn't change it anymore. But you can change it here. And then default output format is also none. Yan. So once it's configured, you can now use yung AWS to connect to yung AWS CLI user to connect to AWS. So one example command, yung AWS S3 ls command. So basically, you're listing all the buckets that you have under S3. So you can see here that it showed the buckets that I've created earlier, yung girlwhocodes.click and www.girlwhocodes.click. So we know that the AWS CLI user works. Yan. So, yan, meron na tayong access to S3 via command line using the AWS CLI user. Now we can start uploading. So again, ito yung isang option if you're doing it via AWS Management Console, but it's too easy. So hindi ito yung explain ko. But basically, meron lang siyang dashboard that you can add files, you can upload folders, and upload the files directly on the console. Yan. So going back to the CLI option. So andito tayo sa list of buckets. Then if you want to start uploading your files, so andito ako sa folder kung asan yung React app ko kanina, sa demo app Girl Who Codes. Then you just run the command AWS S3, then sync. You want to sync your build folder. So build, kung naalala nyo nung nirun natin yung npm run build, it created this build folder which contains the static files that we're uploading to S3. So all the contents of the build folder will start to be uploaded to our bucket. So yung bucket name natin is in this format. So S3:/, then the name of the bucket. Then it will show na ina-upload na niya yung mga files na andun sa build folder to S3. Then to verify, you can go to the AWS Management Console again and just load that bucket, www.girlcodes.click bucket, and then when you go to the objects tab, you'll see na yan, upload na yung static files natin sa S3. Yan. So ganun lang kasimple, in-upload natin siya sa S3 manually via the command line. Yan. So now, if we want to enable access, or we want to make the objects or the static files available in the static website, we have to update also our bucket permissions. Yan. So by default, Amazon S3 blocks public access to your account and buckets. So if you want to use a bucket to host a static website, we need to do these few modifications for the permissions configuration of S3. So first, we need to update the block public access. When you turn off block public access settings to make your bucket public, anyone on the internet can access your bucket. And AWS recommend that you block all public access to your buckets. So meron ding isang option to make a static website na naka-block pa rin to, pero I'll be showing you the less secure option, and then just later, I'll just say kung ano yung way to make that happen. Kung gusto mong naka-block pa rin siya pero accessible siya in the website. And I'll show you now the less secure version, which is to make it public. Yan. So if you click that, you'll have this option. You just uncheck this so that it's not blocking all public access. So yan. Uncheck and then just save the changes. And since you're making it less secure, it will give you a warning na updating the block public access settings will affect this bucket and all objects within that bucket. So it may result in some objects becoming public. So just type confirm to verify that this is really what you want, and then click on confirm. Yan. So once that's done, you'll get this message, publicly accessible. Ayan. Yan. So after that, we also need to update the bucket policy. So hindi lang enough na in-unblock natin yung public access. We also need to attach a bucket policy. So parang ito yung technically what we're allowing for the S3 bucket. So kailangan explicitly sabihin kung ano yung mga i-allow natin. So that's called the bucket policy. So to make the objects in your bucket publicly readable, you must write a bucket policy that grants everyone S3 get object permission. So ganito yung ilalagay natin. So when you click on edit bucket policy, you'll see the screen and you can just copy and paste this policy. Meron din meron siyang generator on this side. You can just select kung ano yung gusto mong service na mag-access, and then automatic yung AWS yung mag-generate nitong code na to for you. So you don't actually need to memorize it. But it's also worth to know kung ano yung ibig sabihin nito, kasi especially if you're taking a certification exam, you should be able to identify how the policy works by just reading this code. So dito makikita mo there's an effect. Yung effect meaning it's either allow or deny. Then yung principal, so basically you're saying principal is star, meaning all. Then what is the action? Ano yung action na ina-allow mo? So here we're saying S3, we're allowing get object or read. Parang i-allow natin yung read write sa S3. Then anong resource yung i-allow mo? Sasabihin mo yung ARN or yung unique identifier nung resource mo, which is the S3 bucket. So ARN, makukuha mo rin dun sa when you navigate to the S3 bucket if you want to get the ARN or the unique identifier of your S3 that you created. So, i-allow mo lahat ng meron ditong / star sa dulo. So, everything under your S3 bucket will be allowed read access. Ayan. So, hope nakakasunod pa kayo. Medyo overwhelming siya, especially to a beginner. So, maganda siya is i-follow step by step rin again so that you can easily understand it. Minsan pag paulit-ulit, mas magigets mo siyang mas makakabisado mo rin and mas magigets mo kung ano yung purpose ng mga ginagawa. Ayun. So now we have updated we allowed public access. We also added the read policy for the S3 bucket. Now we'll also have to enable the bucket for static website hosting. So specifically sasabihin mo yung bucket na to is for static website hosting, yung purpose niya. So there's this option here. You'll see static website hosting. It's by default disabled. So you just sign into the console again and navigate to your S3 bucket. And in the buckets list, choose the name of your bucket, and under properties mo makikita tong option na to. Yan. So you just click on edit and you'll see this this part of the wizard. It's set to disable, so enable mo lang and then save your changes. Ayan. Ay, hindi pala. Pag in-enable mo pala, magkakaroon ka ng other options here. So yung hosting type ba is for hosting a static website, or there's also an option to redirect requests for an object. Yan. For the non-WW na bucket, di ba dalawa yung bucket natin, we'll select this other one, the redirect request for an object. So ang mangyayari kasi, yung objects natin is nandun lang sa WW version, and then pag ang in-access niya is yung non-WW, we want to redirect the users to the one which actually stores the objects that we need. So, kaya may ganong options. So, for this one, the www option, we're selecting the host static website. And on the lower part, you'll also specify kung ano yung index document or yung home page mo. So, here we just said it's the index.html. And as an option, this is optional, you can specify also an error page in case something goes wrong. It will start to load this error HTML file instead of yung random na 404 or mga error pages lang. So if you want to customize that error document, you can also do that here. Yeah. So now everything is set up. When you open the bucket again, you'll see your objects here. Then if you click on the index.html file specifically, you'll see yung details niya. So, ayan. Meron kang object URL also. You can go to this directly. So, ito yung endpoint ng Amazon S3 for your bucket object. And after you finish configuring your bucket as a static website, you can use this endpoint to test your website. So pag kinlik mo to, you'll start to load that index.html file. Yan. So clicking on that will load it on your browser. So since this is a React app, it will not load anything just yet. So you have to actually load it in the right way. So pero it will show you at least a blank page, and that's when you know that you've done it correctly. So let's go back now to our architecture build-up. So far, we have our DNS, we have our React app, and we have already our S3 bucket, and andun na rin yung React app natin sa S3 bucket. So yan na. Now, we want to add a connection from our DNS and point it to our S3. So we want to add that connection. So ganon. So let's go back now to our Route 53 or our DNS service. So again, this is an option only for AWS. In-offer lang siya ni AWS, but it's not required that you do it on AWS side. You can actually set up your domain in some other hosting sites like GoDaddy, for example. But it's also good to know more about the AWS services that this is also offered by AWS. So here in Route 53, you have the hosted zone. So you click on that and you'll see your Route 53 domain here. Ayan. So by default, again, you have the NS and the SOA record that was generated for you by AWS. So a brief this description lang. NS record stand for name server. So it indicates which DNS server is authoritative for that domain. And yung SOA naman, or start of authority, it stores important information about a domain or zone, such as the email address of the administrator, when the domain was last updated, how long the server should wait before it refreshes, yung mga ganong details. So the goal is to create two more records here in your domain, in your hosted zone, that shows that it directs to our S3 bucket. So magdadagdag dito natin i-add yung connection from our domain papunta dun sa S3. So from this same page, just click on create record. Yan. So ang first natin i-set up is yung www. So we're setting up an A record or an alias record. So the routing policy, marami tong routing policy, pero we'll just use simple. Pero for your reference, we also have failover, geolocation, geoproximity, latency. So maraming options yung routing policy. So for this use case, we'll just use the simple routing, which basically saying na this routes to this one. So very simple. Ano lang siya, direct na connection lang. Yan. So when you start to create a record, ito yung mga questions sa'yo. So you'll have to specify kung ano yung record name. So here at www, what is the record type? You say it's an A record that you're creating. And then you're creating a route, an alias to your S3 website endpoint. Then you say yung kung anong region siya. Then kapag na-specify mo yung correct region, you'll see a drop down here on all the buckets available for you under that region. So here I selected yung Ay, hindi. Ito pala yung region. Ayan. Ito yung S3 na andun sa region na yun. So, you can select that on that drop down. Then, see yung routing policy, again, is simple routing. And on this same page, before clicking create records, we can add another record. So, we will set up also the non-www one. So, just leave this blank. So, same questionnaire. A record ulit, tapos alias to S3 website endpoint ulit. And then, specify the region, tapos kung anong S3 bucket siya. Then, routing policy again is simple routing. So, after that, so meron na tayo ng dalawang required records that we're creating. We can now click on create records. Ayan. Now, once that's done, you'll see two more records here. So, we have the non-www.a record simple pointing to S3. And we also have the www1 a record pointing to S3. Yun. So, ito na yung na-build natin so far. So, we have the domain. It's pointed now to S3. And S3 has the React app static website. So, yun na yun. Ito na yung pinaka-simpleng setup ng static website hosting in AWS in a cloud storage. So, actually, when you load that page now, you can load that in your browser. If you go to the non-www and view yung developer tools, so meron ka i-click dito to view yung developer tools, you'll also see if you're loading the non-www, you'll see na meron siyang entry na 301 redirect pointing to yung www. So mapupunta ka pa rin sa www equivalent. So it will load exactly the same files. And if this doesn't work, you have to clear your browser cache, because we know that browser could serve you previous stale data when you load this page previously. So yan. So makikita mo lang basically na load na yung static website mo in the browser. Yan. So ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. Please also note that we're still not secure. So kung mapapansin mo, HTTP lang yung nasa browser natin, and it's also showing the not secure warning here. So some clients, so for example, kunyari sa school or sa company, they block non-secure website. So dito papasok yung CloudFront and Certificate Manager. So kung for the purpose of verification, I show this to you so that you can see in the developer tools, when you open your developer tools and reload this, you'll see that it's being served by S3. So may makikita ka dito, server, Amazon S3. So that's when you know that the content loaded on this website is actually coming from Amazon S3. Yan. So again, ayan ulit. So ito na yung current setup natin. We'll now add yung CloudFront. So CloudFront will provide the caching capabilities dito sa architecture that we're trying to build up. So ito yung i-build natin next na part, yung CloudFront, and we'll use the ACM or the AWS Certificate Manager to have the certificate available. Yan. So ang purpose nito basically is to enable yung HTTPS browsing dun sa website natin. Ayan. So first step, we have to create a public certificate. So again, meron AWS service may service si AWS for that, and that's the AWS Certificate Manager. So in the console, you just type Certificate Manager. You'll see yung Certificate Manager service here. And one thing to note, to use ACM, the certificates in ACM or Certificate Manager with Amazon CloudFront, you must request the certificate in your US East 1 region. So pag sa ibang region mo siya na set up, hindi siya gagana for CloudFront. So yun, something to note para hindi mo siya kailangang ulitin. You just have to always set up your certificate in the US East 1 region. Yeah. So kung familiar kayo sa AWS Management Console, it's somewhere here, yung option to change your region. Ayan. So, ayan. Let's go now to that Certificate Manager. You have the option to request for a certificate, And the certificate type this is for a public certificate. You just select that and click on next. Yan. Then you add the domain of the certificate that we're creating and add the non-www. So yan. So dalawa yung isa-set up natin. The fully qualified domain name or the FQDN. So we have the www1 and the non-www. It's both under a single request. Yan. Then for validation, so AWS provides you two options. We have the DNS validation and we also have the email validation. For this demo, I selected the DNS validation because it's much easier. But just know that you also have the email validation option. And next step for this is the tags, which again you can always skip if you don't need that. Then click on request. It will bring you to this page and show status of pending validation. So ito na yung certificate request mo. Then when you click on the next step, the validation part, you'll see two records here, the C name or the certificate name. So the canonical name pala, sorry. The canonical name or C name record is in lieu of an A record. So when a domain or subdomain is an alias of another domain. So it's used by the DNS to create an alias from one domain name to another domain name. So here we have the domain, which is this one, yung readable domain, which is www.girlwhocodes.click. And we're pointing that to a C name, which is a random characters generated by AWS for you. So it's now in pending validation status. We can go ahead and click create records. And it will say successfully created DNS records. Now, we need to add those records in Route 53. So the option to create records in Route 53 ourselves, there's that option. Or pwede natin siya manually i-create. Itong records na to kasi must exist dun sa Route 53 records natin. But there's also an option provided here by AWS para hindi ka na kailangan mag-copy-paste. So we can just click on create records in Route 53. Yan. Just click on create. And then once this is done, it will change the state from pending validation to issued. Yan. So medyo matagal yon. So yan, go back to Route 53. Meanwhile, while waiting, you can go back to Route 53. Makikita mo na dito na yung na-create ni AWS na record. So, di ba kinlik natin yung button? So, siya na yung nag-insert nitong two records here, which is the C name record. So, it's pointing to the certificates. Yan, makikita mo dito yung certificate na entry sa under the value or route traffic to column. Yan. So, yan. Going back to ACM, since after a while, it will start to show yung from pending validation, magiging issued na yung status niya. Yun. So, basically, we created the certificate now and attached that to our distribution. So, again, going back, so may certificate tayo and then we have that in our CloudFront. Certificate pa lang yung na-create natin. Wala pa yung CloudFront. So, now, add na natin yung CloudFront to enable two things, yung caching and enabling yung HTTPS. So, again, as a reminder, if you load the www.girlwhocodes.click and view developer tools, you should see that S3 is still serving our content. So, after natin i-set up si CloudFront, mag-iiba na yun. Makikita na natin na S3 is still serving the content, but it's via CloudFront. So, pagka-set up natin itong CloudFront, mag-iiba na yung view natin sa developer tools. Yan. So, now let's start working on our CloudFront distribution. So, go back to the main page of the AWS Management Console and then select for the CloudFront service. So, you should see the service for CloudFront here. Click on that. And then you can go ahead and create your distribution. Yeah. So here, we need to create two distribution. one for non-www, and one for www. And origin domain, it's the source of the distribution. So we'll add the S3 path here. So itong path na to, you can get this again from dun sa properties page ni S3 bucket mo. So just paste that link here para masabi mo na the CloudFront is pointing to this S3 bucket. Then add that name here. Then for alternate domain name, we add the CNAME record, and that's www.girlucodes.click. Yan. Then on the lower part, you'll also see here, dito rin natin i-add yung certificate. So ina-attach na natin yung certificate dun sa CloudFront distribution. You'll see it as a drop down here. So kung naalala nyo, sinabi ko kanina na you should have set up your certificate under the US East 1 region. So if you didn't set up your certificate there, you won't get the drop down option here. So kailangan mo siyang i-transfer para magamit mo siya sa CloudFront. So paano hindi pala pwede i-transfer when you accidentally created your certificate or requested your certificate in the wrong region. What you can do, you can request for another certificate in the correct region. But before doing that, you have to delete the previous one you created in the wrong region. So, yan. So, ang reason nun hindi mag-work yung DNS validation. Kaya, kailangan i-delete mo muna before mo i-create dun sa tamang region. Yan. So, going back to CloudFront, na-select natin si SSL certificate because it's already available in the drop-down here. Other properties that we need to fill up. Ayan, ito. The screenshot here is wrong. It should be select redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Reason dito is kapag tinype ni user yung HTTP lang, instead of loading an error page, gusto natin ma-direct yung HTTP papunta sa HTTPS para maloload pa rin yung correct objects for the user. So that's what we need to select, yung redirect HTTP to HTTPS, so that both will still work. And if you accidentally selected the wrong option here, HTTPS only, kapag niload ni user yung HTTP, ang makikita niyang page is a 403 error page. Ayan. So yun yung mga options here. Everything else should be default. Ayun. So that's the end of the wizard. We now have created our distribution under CloudFront. Yan. So again, matagal to mag-propagate. So it will actually show a status of deploying for a while here. Para sa akin yata inabot ng mga around 5 minutes before it changed the status. So ayun. Now we have to do the same steps for the non-www.domain. I won't repeat the steps because they're exactly the same. So ulitin mo lang uli yung wizard for CloudFront. Pero ang gagamitin mo ng domain is yung walang www. Ayan. So once you complete that, dalawa na yung CloudFront distribution mo. One for the first domain name and then the other one for the other domain name na may www. And it will create yung domain na to, which is the CloudFront na domain name for you. Yan. And actually, you can load this in your browser as well. If you copy this, you can also load this in your browser. We can actually validate this if you select that and paste it in your browser, you'll get something like this. So kung makikita mo, ano siya, random characters.cloudfront.net. So ito yung generate ni AWS for you. So ayan, makikita mo again sa developer tools, you'll still see the server is Amazon S3 because this is where your objects are stored. Pero meron kang makikitang extra entry here that it's being served via CloudFront. So, niload natin from CloudFront. It's loaded via CloudFront, but it's the server that has the objects is still nasa S3 siya. S3 bucket natin. Now, ayan. So, ayan. So now we have CloudFront pointing to S3. So ito na siya. Meron yung CloudFront natin pointing to S3. Now we want to also create we also want to repoint the Route 53 kasi currently, 'di ba, ang Route 53 natin is directly pointing to S3. So now we want to change that. We want to point Route 53 to CloudFront. Kasi yung traffic is magiging from Route 53 to CloudFront to S3. So, ganito yung gusto nating maging setup. We will basically modify yung record sa Route 53 instead of it pointing directly to S3. We want it to point to CloudFront. Yan. So, where are we going to do that? Going back dun sa Route 53 na service. So, kung makikita mo yung record na kinreate natin kanina, yung domain, we have a simple A record that's pointed to S3. The S3 URL here. Tapos yung non-www, ganun din. Ito, A record is also pointing to S3 at the moment. So we need to modify those two records. So how do we do that? So we just simply on the same page on Route 53, select kung ano yung i-edit mo, and then it will show itong dito sa right part, meron siyang mag-show na pane, and you just have to click on edit record. Then pag click mo yung edit record, it will show you this editable options. So here we select instead of alias to S3, papalitan natin siya to alias to CloudFront distribution instead. Then we add the CloudFront domain here, so that it will point to that CloudFront instead. Then click on save. Simple routing pa rin yung gagamitin natin. Then click on save, and it will show that it was successfully updated. So we need to do the same for the non-www. Basically, same step. Select, edit the record, then change to alias to CloudFront distribution, then paste the CloudFront distribution here, then click on save. Now we can try to load the domain again. HTTPS www.girlcodes.click. Makikita mo siya, secure na yung website kasi it's now loading from the CloudFront instead of S3. Yan. So yan yung isang nagawa natin na benefit of going to CloudFront instead of directly pointing to S3. Ayan. So again, as mentioned, pag niload mo siya, makikita mo na siya na via CloudFront na yung pag-serve ng data sa website. Ayan. Now, it's also possible na pag niload mo siya, yung domain is hindi pa siya updated agad. Meaning, kasi 'di ba initially naka-point tayo sa S3, and it's possible that if we do any changes sa CloudFront, kasi since meron siyang caching capabilities, if we do any changes, it's also possible that we're loading the cache instead of the newer data. So there's an option in CloudFront where you have to trigger manually yung i-invalidate mo yung distribution cache. Basically, kiniklear mo yung cache sa CloudFront. So, di ba meron caching sa browser, meron din sa CloudFront. So, ganito yung way how you will do that in AWS. So, go to the CloudFront, sa Management Console, go to CloudFront and then navigate to your distributions. So, dalawa yung distribution natin. Again, we want to invalidate on both. So, we can do that one by one. And so, basically, go to Invalidations tab and then select Create Invalidation. And, okay, this one is wrong. It should be /* only. If you want to invalidate all object paths, meron ding guide si AWS dito kung ano yung mga pattern, kung anong specific yung object na i-invalidate mo. Kasi pwedeng specific object only or pwedeng all. So pag all, /star yung yung ilalagay mo dyan. Then just click on create invalidation. Yan, that will clear the cache for you. Yan. So now we have our build up complete. So ito na yung exact architecture that we're trying to build. Ayun, yun na yung pinaka architecture that we're trying to build. And now in the last part, if we still have time, I think I'll quickly go through as well dun sa CI/CD part, which is if you want to make any changes, and we'll make use of another AWS service, which is yung code pipeline. So for DevOps role, yun yung that's an important service that you also need to know. So bilisan lang natin because we're also running out of time. Anytime that we want to do any changes to our app, we want it to be deployed to S3. So dun papasok yung code pipeline na service. Quickly running through this AWS code pipeline is this service that will do this for us. So nakikita rin siya under management console. You just go to code pipeline, you'll see this dashboard and select create pipeline. So ano rin siya, kung mapapansin mo, most naman ng AWS services is madaling matutunan kasi wizard lang sila most of the time. So go through the wizard and select the defaults, select a new service role, click on next. Yan, mostly mga default lang din. You specify the bucket where you're going to upload yung files for continuous integration, continuous deployment to this bucket. Yan. We also need to add a source stage. So saan ba ipupull yung objects na ilalagay sa S3? So here I selected GitHub. So GitHub, it's basically a repository for code. So pwedeng doon mo i-store as a staging repository yung mga code na i-upload mo sa S3. So yun, basically stage lang siya talaga. That's one option. You can directly point it to GitHub. So first, we need to set up a connection to GitHub para ma-pull ni code pipeline from GitHub yung files na ilalagay niya kay S3. So yan. Going through the options, we're creating the connection now. Click on select GitHub. Yan, connect to GitHub. Tapos install a new app and it will give you this login. I-link mo lang siya dun sa GitHub repository mo. So here, my repository user is coder K, tapos yung password, and it will provide you an authorization OAuth page here. Then you just click authorize to give AWS connector access to your GitHub repo. Yan, tapos yan, install, and mapupunta na siya dito ulit dun sa AWS Management Console kung ano yung random ID na ipoprovide for you, which is basically the connection to your GitHub. And click on connect. Pag naka-connect siya successfully, it will show success here. Tapos, yan, you can specify kung ano yung repo path. So for example, under my repo, it's under Girl Who Codes. Then the branch name is any changes to master will trigger the pipeline. So that's the branch name I'll put here. And start the pipeline on source code change. So every time may change kay master, magde-deploy yung code to S3. Then click, yan. Other things are default. Click on next. Add a build stage. We can skip this part. Pero itong basically yung build stage, you can also have code for that. Kasi kung naalala nyo nung binild natin yung React app kanina, nag-run ako ng code na npm run build. So instead of doing that, you can also set it up in the pipeline. So merong ganong service din si AWS. Kompleto talaga si AWS for the services for your CI/CD. Pero for this time, we're not going to use that. We'll just run it manually. Then so I just click on skip build, and we can also see yung deployment stage is mapupunta sa S3 from GitHub. Then click on next, and then you'll review the pipeline. So yun na, ganun na, na-create mo na si pipeline. Ay, ito, pinapreview sa'yo, tapos just click on create pipeline and makikita mo na-create na si pipeline for you. So, ito yung CI/CD or continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline mo. And initially, it will show yung red here. If you click on the link, you'll see this error. So, bakit siya nag-error? So, it can't upload to S3 because it failed with the following error. The bucket does not allow ACLs. So, ito isa pang another permission that we need to set in S3. So, balik tayo sa S3 service. Under permission, under object ownership, click on edit. Ayan. Click on edit. And then there's an option to enable ACL. We just select that. And I acknowledge that ACLs will be restored. Save that. And go back to code pipeline. Makikita mo na green na siya kasi pwede na siyang maglagay ng files dun sa S3. So green na yung pipeline natin, meaning it now works. It will now work. In theory, it will now work. And so if you want to try that, going back to our local, for example, we want to edit this homepage. So basically, ang pinalitan ko rito is yung text. I just changed it to Girl Who Codes instead. And save that and upload that to, ayan. You can try to load it from your browser, localhost, and verify that it's already updated, Girl Who Codes. And run the build so that it will create the static files again with the updated code. And then, basically, since nasa outer part nung, di ba, pagka-run natin ng build, napunta siya sa build folder, minanwal ko lang muna na kinopy ko yung files outside because this is where S3 is looking for. Pero we can do that programmatically as well. Yan. Pero for this time, I just copy-pasted it outside. And so, I connected to my GitHub. So, git status to check kung ano yung mga naka-stage na files. So, ito yung mga na-update ko na files. So, basically, to push that to my repository, I just add a commit message, git commit m, and then add a comment here. Then, git push, it will start to push that in my GitHub repo. And that will, since nagbago yung repo ko sa master, again, ito yung kinonfigure natin sa code pipeline. So, it automatically na-trigger yung pipeline natin, and it automatically pulled the files from my GitHub papunta sa S3. So, dineploy niya yon sa S3. And you can verify that by going to your bucket, your Amazon S3 bucket. Makita mo yung files has been updated with an update date. And it should also have the latest code. And if you load that, ayan. Pag niload mo, at kung mapapansin mo, hindi pa updated yung code, it's still using yung previous one. Kasi nga, naka-cache tayo sa CloudFront. So, kung going back dun sa steps, you can invalidate the cache so that it will automatically load yung update natin, which is to change this text to Girl Who Codes instead. Pero you can also wait for it to invalidate automatically. Just know na kapag nag-raise ka ng invalidation request sa CloudFront, that's being charged by AWS. So may bayad siya. Hindi ko lang memorize yung cost. Pero you can also wait for it to invalidate itself. Meron lang naman yung timeline of validity, yung cache na yun. Pero you can also trigger that manually if you want it to reflect automatically on the page. Ayun. So, yan. So, ito na siya. Kung i-open mo siya directly from S3, mapapansin mo updated na yung nasa S3. Pero yung nasa Route 53, yung naka-cache pa siya. So, alam mo na nag-work yung code, na-deploy mo yung code, you just have to invalidate the cache. So, go back to invalidate the cache. Again, ito yung steps na yon. And kapag na-invalidate na siya, it will now be updated even on the Route 53 URL. Ayun. So, yun na yung architecture na na-build natin. So, that's already the complete setup. So, just to review yung AWS services that we have discussed, andyan yung Route 53, AWS Certificate Manager for certificates, yung CloudFront for caching and HTTPS. And we also have yung S3 bucket or yung storage, and then the React app. Tapos yung code pipeline which deploys our React to S3. Ayun, yun lang. Yun, medyo napahaba siya. Pero this is the GitHub path of the boilerplate React app. So, dito siya nakukuha pag nirun mo yung npx na create React app na command. So, dito niya kinukuha yung default na pages na files na yun. Then, ito rin yung useful links from AWS. Andito yung mga step-by-step process. You can take a screenshot of this path. So, if you want to follow the steps one by one, you can also go here. So, going back dun sa kanina kong minention, yung in-enable natin yung bucket policy to allow all public access. So, based on advice by AWS sa security, gusto niya yung least privilege. So, dapat hindi tayo nag-open ng access to everyone because we're prone to hacking. So, if you want to read more about it, ang option na gagawin mo to enable CloudFront access to your S3 without giving public access to all is you can search about the origin access identity. So yun yung kailangan mo i-set up to allow access to your S3 objects to CloudFront only. Ayun lang. So that's all that I have for you today. So hope you learn a lot. I'll pass it back to.
Let's see if there are any questions from our viewers. Okay. Our first question is from... Okay. Still looking for... If you have questions, you may comment them down at the comment section. Still looking for the question. I already saw it. Okay. Where is the first question? Okay.
Meron ako nakita yung... Ay, sige, go ahead.
Okay. Let's start this one. So, is it free for student or need daw ba ng credit card to use S3 for...
Ayun. Yeah. If you were if you can remember yung pinakita ko nung umpisa, meron yung in-offer na AWS ngayon, meron na siyang skill builder na website where you can actually have access to AWS Management Console for free. So, andun na yung mga basic services like this one. So, except siguro yung domain kasi may bayad talaga yung domain. Pero kung gusto mong maka-access ng AWS Management Console for free, there's that option, yung skill builder ng AWS. And also yung free tier, in-offer din siya ng AWS na 1 year. Marami kang free services rin na makukuha for that. Ayan.
Okay. Here's another question from Kami. Yeah. So, do we need a website builder like Godaddy to buy or create domain names?
Yep. Yes. So, yung domain name is always bought from a provider. So, example, yung Godaddy. And yun nga, yung Route 53 is another option. So, marami pang pwedeng bilhan ng domain. But that's also an option.
Okay, here's another question from Jomar. Ayun, magkano kaya ang price for this certain setup?
Yung sa pinakita ko, everything is under free tier. So, wala akong binayad actually, except for yung domain name. So, ginamit ko yung .click kasi mura lang siya. Parang $3 lang yung cost ng domain. Pero pag .com, it will be much more expensive. Pero yun. So for this setup, ang cost lang nito is $3, which is 150 pesos.
Wow. Okay, here's another question from John Mercado. Possible ba mag-setup ng staging tsaka prod sa mismong S3?
Yes, pwede rin. Actually, kahit ano naman pwede mong i-set up sa pipeline. You just have to configure it how you want it. So, for example, gusto mo nasa S3 na isang S3 bucket, then ito-transfer mo sa another S3 bucket for yun yung naka-point sa production. You can also do that. Sa code pipeline mo rin siya gagawin.
Okay, here's question from Tantan. Can it be used sa data mining?
Hindi ako masyadong familiar sa data mining. Medyo advanced topic siya for data.
Siguro, ano na lang, no? Ano yung parang case na hindi, parang mas, ibang service ng AWS yung gagamitin instead of this architecture?
For static website hosting? Ayun. Marami, depende sa use case mo. For WordPress, alam ko ang most common setup yung light sail. Tapos yung Elastic Beanstalk, yun, alam ko madali rin. Although I haven't used that service yet. Pero basically you have a zip file na andun lahat ng code mo and you just upload it to Elastic Beanstalk. Siya na yung mag-create ng architecture for you. So that's another option. Tapos marami rin yun, kung gusto mo do it yourself, na mag-set up ka ng server talaga or yung VM na doon ka mag-i-install ng mga web servers. So you can use EC2 for that. Pero masyadong expensive yun. So it's not recommended na ganun yung setup. So yun. Maraming options actually.
Okay, may something to add si Pojong, no, yung ating always our viewer. So sabi niya, no, you can't use it for data mining.
Thank you.
So next is ito, from Arturo de la Cruz III. Yeah. Is .env enough for website security?
Ano yung .env? Hindi ako masyadong familiar.
Siguro kung ma-clarify ni Arturo to, no? Yun. Next question is from Mini LYF. Yun. Yung last daw niya, project niya is S3 with CloudFront at Route 53. Yun.
Nice.
Nice, yun. Ito from Gerald, no? Best option aside from AWS or Godaddy?
Hindi ko rin expertise yung I think mostly the same naman sila. Kung yung in terms of cost, kapag yung cost sa AWS usually same din sa Godaddy. Pero kung sa AWS yung architecture mo, I would recommend na dun mo rin i-set up yung domain just because it's easier to set up if everything is under one place. Ayun.
Okay, last two questions, no. This is from Adrian. Ano po ang advantage na ginagawa niyo, like ginawa kanina, compared sa traditional deployment ng website? Siguro dito yung mga FTP, ganun.
Very easy na i-set up siya. Yung setup, although medyo ma-detailed yung pag-explain ko, pero relatively easy yung pag-set up in a cloud storage kasi simple clicks lang siya, upload yung static website. So pag simple web apps, ganun lang yung option.
Okay, for our last question, this is from Serge. Can we build a Laravel application using this technology or architecture?
Hindi rin ako familiar sa Laravel. Pero if it's just static websites, you can also upload it to S3 and then set it up this way as well.
So anything static na yung mga HTML, CSS?
Basta static, yes. You can go for cloud storage always.
Okay. So maybe that's it for the Q&A. Once again, thank you, Ms. Kay, for your time here sa PWA Pilipinas Live. Is there anything that you want to pahabol to share sa community?
Wala naman masyado, pero I just want to also share kasi maganda talaga yung AWS community. If you want to learn about AWS, there's a lot of groups you can join. So ayun, if you want to go deeper into technology, especially yung cloud technology, just join yung mga FB groups. One, yung PWA Pilipinas, attend the webinars also. There's a lot to learn and very exciting yung mga matututunan mo talaga sa mga webinars. Yun lang.
Okay. Ayan. So once again, thank you, Ms. Kay, for giving us the time.
Yep, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
So, once again, no, thank you kay Ms. Kay. So, before we end our program, share ko lang ulit, no, how would you get an e-certificate of attendance for this event? Sa mga nagtatanong, ulitin ko lang. Ayan. So, namimigay kami ng e-certificate of attendance sa mga nag-register. So, hindi pa kayo nag-register, visit nyo yung app.pwapilipinas.org or actually meron dyan sa comment section na link para dun sa registration page. So, visit nyo yung link na yun or visit nyo yung app.pwapilipinas.org tapos click nyo yung events. Yan. Tapos, hanapin nyo yung event na to. So, yung event na to ay Cloud.talks. Tapos, yun, click nyo yung register or if naka-register na kayo, click nyo lang yung attend event. Yan. So, after nyo pa-click yung attend event, fill up yung form, tapos tatanungin namin yung first name, last name nyo doon. So, yun, magiging open siya until 11:59 p.m. Ayun. So, if hindi pa nakita yung button na attend event, wait lang kayo ng mga few minutes, refresh nyo lang, so magiging enabled din maya-maya. So, isend namin mga e-certificate nyo bukas or on Monday. Ayun, so syempre may additional, no? So, fill up nyo dito. This is a feedback form from AWS, Edukasyon.ph and Siklab. So, visit nyo yung go.edukasyon.ph/PWA Pilipinas X AWS Feedback 1. Share ko din yan sa comment section. Or, scan nyo yung QR code kasi mag-raffle draw kami ng isang shirt. So, kung gusto yung mapasama sa raffle na yun, magkaroon kayo ng shirt. So, scan nyo lang yung code na yan and yun. Para kasama kayo sa raffle, syempre. Ayun. So, ano pa bang next? Yun. So, once again, ayun, fill up nyo yan, and dun din sa app, actually, fill up nyo din yun para makapagbigay kami sa inyo ng e-certificate. Yun. So, once again, I'm Anisito de Guzman, the Community Lead for PWA Pilipinas, and may mga events pa kami. Check nyo yung app, may events page dyan for our next events. And with that, ayun. If you still have questions kasi matuto ng PWA Progressive Web Apps, yan, may event kami next week, tama ba? 26. So, register kayo sa event na yan and kita-kits. So, yun lang. Bye-bye. And salamat pala sa Edukasyon.ph and AWS Siklab para sa event na to. So, maraming salamat. Bye.
I'm from Singapore.
From Vietnam.
AWS User Group Thailand.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I run the user group in Singapore as a community hero.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I love AWS community.
Go AWS.
I'm so proud that all the group members are very proactive to support each other.
I'm really passionate about making artificial intelligence and machine learning more accessible.
I'm also one of the AWS machine learning heroes around the world.
It's a global, positive, and diverse community.
ผมเป็น Amazon Web Service Community Hero ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับ
The love of the technology and the friendship in the community.
Go AWS. I'm from Singapore.
From Vietnam.
AWS User Group Thailand.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I run the user group in Singapore as a community hero.
I'm an AWS community builder.
I love AWS community.
Go AWS.
I'm so proud that all the group members are very proactive to support each other.
I'm really passionate about making artificial intelligence and machine learning more accessible.
I'm also one of the AWS machine learning heroes around the world.
is a global, positive and diverse community.
ผมเป็น Amazon Web Service Community Hero ประจำประเทศไทยนะครับ
The love of the technology and the friendship in the community.
Go AWS.
You've earned an AWS certification. Congratulations! Now what? Show your employer, colleagues, and your customers that you've met the bar set by AWS experts. Add your digital badge to your professional profiles and email signature to highlight your skills. Share it on your social feeds to celebrate with your network. And offer verification via email or on your resume. Cloud skills are in demand, and you have them. Share your AWS certified achievement today.
Hi, I'm Emma from the AWS account and billing support team in Sydney. Sometimes customers ask me what is included in the AWS Pre-Tier and how they can use the Pre-Tier. Today, I'm going to talk about what you can use in the AWS Pre-Tier. Let's get started. As you can see, I'm on the AWS Pre-Tier website. The Pre-Tier is automatically activated for each new AWS account and it lasts for 1 year. While the Pre-Tier is active, you can try out